It's late. I mean, it's 1 o'clock LA time. Tonight today was a magnificent day. I had the opportunity to teach at the Mocap Vaults, our Pure Imagination class. I do the first chunk of the class, kind of about improvisation and using improv for motion capture, and in particular, environment work. And kind of really underlining the fact that improv is not just for comedy. Improv is for living truthfully in the moment, listening and reacting, and using those rules of improvisation. And so that's something that we talked about in our work. But before I pass out, I wanted to, after that, went to go see Batman Forever at the Egyptian Theater to celebrate its 30th anniversary and pay tribute to Val Kilmer. A great Batman, had a great time with the kid. And then we watched The Fugitive tonight, which is another Hall of Fame classic picture, which leads me to the DVD I'm going to talk about tonight, Casablanca. So this film is from 1941. It was originally a stage play called Everyone Goes to Rick's. And Humphrey Bogart, Ingrid Bergman, directed by Michael Curtiz, Paul Henreid, Dooley Wilson, spectacular Claude Rains. That's not why I love that movie or why that movie is so personally important. Growing up where I did, and when I did, we very rarely got to see older films. Like VHS hadn't come around. As a student of movies, I would go to the Gaines Township Public Library and look up books through the book catalog that might have pictures and things. And I'd heard about Bogart and seen impressions of Bogart in the Bugs Bunny cartoons. People had talked about Casablanca. But had never seen it, never had an opportunity to. And then the great, Sherry refers to it all the time as the great VHS, like, movie catch-up, where when VHS tapes dropped and we would go rent, you just suck it up and you just take in all these old pictures that you had heard about forever and never got a chance to see. For me, Casablanca was one of those. And I never rented it. They did a theatrical re-release in the early 90s to celebrate, probably, it had to be 91, celebrating its 50th anniversary. And I went to go see it at Studio 28. And at that time, I was old enough to really understand the implication of what that movie was really about and the sacrifice that these characters are going through, that Rick and Ilsa make these choices. And Victor Laszlo, and Renee make choices to continue Victor Laszlo's work, and that's more important than the personal relationship that Rick and Ilsa have. And that there are things more important than just personal satisfaction, personal love, and that being part of the cause is enough. As much as Rick protests and says, I stick my neck out for no man, he is a true believer in his heart. Rick is a real one. And he demonstrates that in the casino scene. He demonstrates that at the end. And even though he's a real one, it still hurts when you fall in love with someone and then think that you were lied to. I'm giving a ton of spoilers, but the movie is 70 years old. So if you haven't seen Casablanca, you should make a point of watching Casablanca. 80 years old. 84. That's all well and good, but why is it important to me? So yeah, it's a masterpiece. When Sherry and I first started dating, we bonded over our love of old pictures, in particular black and white films, and in particular, Humphrey Bogart and Casablanca. In fact, we did this 2-week stint in Traverse City, and every night we would do the show, and then we'd go to the bar, and then we'd stand in front of the hotel until 4 o'clock in the morning, smoking cigarettes and talking movies and all kinds of different things. It was just awesome. And Casablanca, we revisited it frequently. And then on one of our last days, there was like, we went to go see Blair Witch Project. And then there was a bookstore, and in the bookstore they had like this big coffee table book specifically of Casablanca. And I remember flipping through that book with these massive photographs of the film, and showing Sherry like how dynamic and beautiful these images were, and laughing about it. And so it really felt like Casablanca was a film that we connected over, and not in a way of like, oh, it's a lovely romance, oh, it's so beautiful, but about it's just about the themes of the film and how inspiring those themes are, and that we grew up in a time, and I because of the era I grew up in, there was very few experiences I've had that made me go like, this is what I stand for. I'm standing up for this against all odds. I'm against what the pressures might be. I'm going to stand up for that. I mean, I grew up in a Christian community with a bunch of Christians in a Christian school. So like, what am I really standing up for? It's like at the high school, we'd have debates about things in class, but it was, most people in our microculture, in our monoculture, believe the same thing. So who are you standing up to or for or what? I think Do the Right Thing might have been the first time where I got my head turned outside of my own culture and started to think differently about in particular, about the experience of African Americans in this country. And then that led me to listen to Ice-T's music and Public Enemy, and start to just, not that it made me that terribly enlightened, but it made me aware of things outside of the culture that I had grown up in. And Casablanca, to me, reflects that action of defining those moments for you of what they are. And we don't know what those moments will be until we're confronted with them. But yeah, we named our daughter after Ingrid Bergman in Casablanca, Ilsa. I remember it was Christmas Day during the pandemic in 2020 that at Post 43 in Hollywood, they did a drive-in movie screening of Casablanca, and we went, and that was the first time that we showed the movie to the kid. I think in a way that she was old enough to be able to take it in. So it's a movie that sits like squarely in the center of my chest, behind my sternum. I had the soundtrack album, the music by Max Steiner, and like there's dialogue quotes in it. I mean, I say all the time that my favorite picture is Big Trouble in Little China, and I think it is in some respects. But if held feet to the fire, and I also give myself the caveat of your favorite movie ever made in 1941, then I'll have to say Casablanca. But it might beat out the 40s. Here's the other thing that blew my mind when I thought about it. Casablanca is closer in release date to Star Wars, A New Hope, than we currently are today to Star Wars, A New Hope. Let that sit in. That when Star Wars, A New Hope came out, Casablanca was 35 years old. I saw Batman Forever tonight on its 30th anniversary. That's how much longer we've been walking around, that we've had movies as part of our culture. I think that's pretty fascinating. And, well, there you go. All right. Enough about Casablanca. Well, actually, it's never enough about Casablanca. It's a Mount Rushmore movie for me, as my buddy John Toohey said, and I agree. And now it is it's very late, and I'm going to call it a night. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for watching. I appreciate the comments that I've received from folks, both in person and in messages. And feel free to comment, share your ideas, share. I'm so curious what you think of these movies and what you have seen or what you co-sign. And we'll talk to you soon. Physical media forever. Peace. Oh, by the way, this 4K of Casablanca is really, really gorgeous. I think I said the other day on my birthday, it's like why we got the television we got, because it handles black and white really well. Super important. So just deep and beautiful. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. Have a good night. We'll always have Paris.